Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to Judiciary C. If you go ahead and introduce yourselves and then go ahead and make some remarks for us.
Mr. Chairman and members, I'm Michael Renatza. I'm the Executive Director of the Louisiana Sheriff's Association. And with me is Gary Bennett, retired sheriff from West Carroll Parish, who's our Assistant Director. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for those of you who were able to visit with us last night. We enjoyed the opportunity to visit with all of you. In representing our 64 sheriffs, there's a lot of pride in our organization, which was established in 1938. So in 1938, 3 sheriffs decided to branch off from the Louisiana peace officers and to start their own association, which became the Louisiana Sheriff's Association. Since that time, we've had 4 executive directors. I am the 4th. I wanted to tell you that our first executive director, Miss Jean Bell, was recently sworn in by the Louisiana Political Hall of Fame in Winsboro 2 weeks ago, and I was able to go to that swearing-in ceremony and visited with her family. But the first executive director of our association was actually a female. We represent the 64 sheriffs and approximately 14,000 deputy sheriffs. In everything that we do, we tell our sheriffs, we tell deputy sheriffs, the most important thing that we can do for you is to serve you, and you serve the constituents in the parishes. How you serve is really everything about the success of our organization. Serve the public the way you wish to be served as an individual. 90% of our work is helping somebody in a time of need. 90% of our jobs are doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily think have anything to do with law enforcement, but they help people. They help mothers with missing children or counseling children, or we help neighbors settle a dispute. A lot of times, which never amount to anything that results in a criminal charge, but how can we help you fix this? How can we help you with this problem? And if we can do that, we succeed. The 10% for law enforcement is what you read about in the papers, and that's the sensational aspects of our job, but that really doesn't reflect the actual work that we do.
This is a demonstration of Wirecast.
Lately, too much emphasis has been on the financial side of who we are and what happens in jails. And our organization this year would much rather discuss with you issues on how we'd prefer to address violent crime issues in the state of Louisiana. There's far too many guns on the street, far too many things in which we want to deal with as far as how do we curtail Louisiana's ranking in total violent crime, which we've ranked anywhere from number 2 to number 10 in the United States per 100,000, and the fact that we rank in homicides number 1 far too many years than I can remember. So homicide is very much on our minds. We will come to you this year with 2 major measures. The first and the foremost deals with a felon in possession of a firearm. That bill will be Senate Bill 188 by Senator White, and what it does, it goes back to establishment of that crime as being within the violent crime section. It's not that we're attempting to increase the penalties for a felon in possession of a firearm. We want to accentuate the way it was in the past, that this is what we refer to as a violent offense. And why do we reward those people with a higher earned good time ratio than what we believe they should be? So It's just a reclassification of the offense back into 14.2. Why do we choose to involve ourselves in that? Because we, as sheriffs, have got to answer the questions from victims, from people in the neighborhoods. Well, how did this happen? You know, why is this felon with this weapon? Why are we not emphasizing this as an offense? And quite frankly, there's not a good answer for it. There's just simply not a good answer. So it's not, again, that we want to over-punish these people. We want to accentuate what the offense should be.
This is a demonstration
The other
of
simple thing that we have before you is a practical thing for the office of the sheriff, and that is simply this. Payroll padding provisions of law are really created for people who are going through the election process 6 months before, and in our case 6 months after. There's a specific statute for payroll padding for the office of the sheriff. What a lot of people simply don't realize that once a sheriff is reelected, then he's still subject to the same payroll padding provisions. So in the case where a sheriff wants to go through and make his ordinary fleet purchases, as he has done for prior successive years, sometimes the 15% cap on the payroll padding prevents a sheriff from making the ordinary expenses of replenishing his fleet. So it's not that we want to change the intent of the legislation. The intent was never to stop a sheriff who's going to be the sheriff at the end of his term. He's going to be the next sheriff. It would simply allow him to go on about the office of the sheriff as he does in every other calendar year post-election. So those are the two measures that we have. It's House Bill 65 and Senate Bill 188. We, from time to time, have measures that come before you pertaining to our group health benefits program and how we handle retirees in our respective offices. And for the most part, those things are not retroactive, and they deal with prospective employees. That's pretty much it, and I'd like to answer whatever questions that you would have of myself or Sheriff Bennett.
One of the questions that came out with DOC was the daily rate they were paying the local jails, and someone asked, is there an increase in the governor's budget to that daily rate at this point? Do you know?
This is a
The
demonstration
increase
of Wirecast.
in the law past year went from 2439 to 2539, and that was reflected in last year's budget. This year's increase would be an additional $1 to 2639. Our actual costs exceed $35 per prisoner. So the question pertaining to whether it was in the executive budget, there was a reduction in the total aggregate number of dollars in Schedule 20, which reflects the category of funds, which is titled Sheriff's Housing of Adult Offenders. Maybe a word or two off on that, but that's what it reflects, Sheriff's Housing. So the aggregate number took approximately a $3 million reduction, but I don't speak for anyone else, but what has happened in the past, Senator, Mr. Chairman, is that money has been made up at the end of the session in the supplemental appropriations. So we don't profess to beat these drums all the time, you know, pay this $3 million and that's that. We've been very patient and been very happy to work with you and the members of the Senate, you know, to get what the law reflects. We're very, very pleased that the legislature last year adopted the increase. It was much needed, and it reflects our desire to do a better job in the jails.
Any questions from members? Seeing no questions, I want to thank you for coming down today, and we look forward to seeing you throughout the session.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.